All set. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Slackin. I'm the General Manager of the Baseball Softball Division for Easton. Thank you all for taking the time to be here today. And thank you for those that are also joining on our webcast this morning, which we appreciate. Today you're going to be hearing from a handful of speakers on some pretty interesting information. After the speakers are concluded, we'll have a brief Q&A session. And then following the Q&A session, for those of you who are here in the Scotts Valley facility, we will have an optional tour of the facility, which will gather over off to my left. But we have a handful of speakers, and so without any further ado, let me introduce the first one, Paul Harrington, CEO of Easton Bell Sports. Paul?
Thank you, Mike, and welcome everybody. We're incredibly excited to have you all here. We have an exciting product that we'd like to talk about, but before I do that, I'd really like to introduce our guests. To have them to come down and be a part of this event is special for us. So first, I'd like to introduce Steve Keener, President and CEO of Little League Baseball. Maria Shida, the Executive Director of the California Interscholastic Federation. And probably most importantly is Bjorn and Gunnar Sandberg, along with Lisa Sandberg, their mother here. We appreciate you taking the time to come down as partners for us in this exciting venture. What I'd like to do is just spend a little bit of time talking about the why, why we're here today. Clearly we're here today to introduce a new product, but more importantly, we're here today because an extraordinary young man motivated the team here to come up and use the research and design and development capability to come up with a better solution. So last year around this time, Gunnar was hit pitching for Marin Catholic High School in a game towards the end of the inning and suffered a serious injury. This is something that galvanized the entire group here at Easton Bell Sports, and particularly the Dome, to come up with a better solution for protection for pitchers. We have here, we established this facility probably about 18 months ago. It was a lot of hard work to keep it together, to consolidate all our research, design, and development capability across the company and invest in the middle of a recession, but this is what we do here. This is the how. What you're going to see in the tour is about how we're bringing compelling product to market. We have people that are passionate about what they do here, and you'll see that as you go through the tour. I believe we have over 45 people here dedicated to head protection within Easton Bell Sports, whether they be in design, development, or research. There's over 450 years of experience here that is bringing product to market to allow our consumers and our athletes to participate in sports at a safer level. The other thing I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the product itself. So this is the grand unveil, and while some of you have seen it in the past, what I'd like to do is just show you what we've been working on here. You can see here we didn't start with a traditional batting helmet. We took this to the new level and said, how do we actually come up with something that's both to protect the players, but also isn't going to be an impediment to performance, okay? So as you can see, this was designed with the intent of what a pitcher does. A pitcher is out there in the hot sun for long periods of time. They have a throwing motion that allows them to have, they need to have the most comfortable thing on their head, but it's also technically advanced. This is an expanded polystyrene. The material absorbs energy better than many other materials and is lightweight. So the key here is we can design the best pitcher's helmet, but unless the kids put it on, it's not going to accomplish its purpose here. So this is the red version, but I'm told, Gunnar, that you like the other one. So we'd like you to model it. Drawn this in his mind before, and it looks pretty close to this. So we may have to bring him on as one of the designers here.
Gunnar, how does it feel?
Yeah. It's very comfortable.
Do you want him to try with a baseball cap on?
Sure, if you have one, yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah.
At least it's not a New York Yankees or anything. Yeah.
They have to go blue. That's right.
That's great. I mean, for Gunnar to be standing here today trying this on is truly an inspirational story. What you and the family have been through over the last year getting to this place here is, as I said, motivates everybody in this building, and we appreciate it.
How does it feel?
Comfortable?
Clearly, there's a need in the marketplace. I'm going to confine my remarks so we can get to some of the other speakers here. But when you look at anybody that's watched either a baseball game at any level, whether it be at Little League, at high school, or into the pros, a pitcher's in a vulnerable spot, okay? That's the brief that we took, okay? It doesn't matter on the age. We want to be able to design something that could be adopted at all different levels. We want to get to a point to where you remember back when hockey players didn't wear helmets, and everybody, you look now and say, why would they ever not wear a helmet? Where kids didn't wear cycling helmets. You know, we feel we will evolve this program to where it's natural for pitchers to wear a helmet, and therefore we have kids and adults out there enjoying the game, and their participation is where we want to be. So that's a little bit from the company side. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Steve Keener, CEO of Little League Baseball. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. I certainly don't want to monopolize the time here this morning, but the biggest pleasure for me so far today was to have the opportunity to meet Gunnar and his family. I certainly heard about the very serious accident and injury that came from Gunnar being hit by the line drive, and I was telling him we were at breakfast this morning, and I was telling him, I said, you know, I have a son who's a pitcher in a Division I college baseball program, and I've watched many times, you know, sort of holding my breath when he's out on the pitching mound. So I feel I'm really glad I got to meet Gunnar, and that's probably what we can all say is to see him standing here today is probably the best news of today. But we also Little League Baseball, I believe, has a kinship with this effort, in that my predecessor at Little League Baseball Incorporated holds the patent on the development of the protective batter's helmet. A gentleman by the name of Creighton Hale. He developed the modern-day protective batter's helmet that's worn at every level of the game today. And it was because of his leadership and his belief that Little League Baseball should be first and foremost a leader in the youth sports injury prevention, protective equipment area that I'm very proud to say that over the nearly 70-some years of the Little League organization, we have been the leader in trying to make the game as safe as possible and looking at innovative ways to do that. And I can cite you many examples, so I won't take the time to go through them all today, but innovations that maybe other organizations aren't thinking about. But for example, we eliminated the on-deck position in baseball, because there were so many injuries that were happening as a result of it. We mandate the use of disengageable bases on our playing fields. We do not allow, we outlawed head-first sliding. We're the only youth baseball organization who protects young pitching arms by implementing a very strict pitch count standard. So we have a very proven, I believe, highly regarded record in the field of youth sports safety. And it was probably a year or so ago when I sat down with some of the good folks here at Easton and said, you know, there's a great debate over bats and non-wood bats and wood bats, and we won't get into that today. But we could make bats, and we're moving toward that now, that perform exactly like wood bats. And everyone kind of accepts the fact that a wood bat is the standard that is used in the game. But I said it's not going to matter as long as we have non-wood bats being used. And the next time a unfortunate young person like Gunnar is in the way of a line drive that they can't catch for whatever reason, they're going to be blaming bats. They're going to be blaming something. And so why not start the development process of a pitcher's protective headgear? And to my pleasant surprise, Easton was already thinking in that direction. So that's really why I'm here today, Paul. I'm enthusiastic about this new product. Paul's absolutely right. This type of product needs to be introduced at the very youngest levels of youth baseball, when kids play and are 6, 7, 8 years old, to get them comfortable with it, so that someday it becomes the type of product that they grab in the dugout to put their cap on and their pitcher's protective headgear on, just like they do grab their glove to run out onto the field. That's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. And but my admiration, my enthusiasm for what Easton is doing in this regard is very, very high, and I congratulate you for taking this this initiative and pledge that Little League Baseball will work with you closely and to whatever degree we can to help advance the use of this type of product. So thank you for inviting me to be here today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have when we get to that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. At this point, I'd like to introduce another great partner we've had, Maria Ishida, who, as I said earlier, is from the California Interscholastic Federation. They've been a great partner in this project.
Thank you, Paul, for the invite, and actually to Easton in general for inviting the California Interscholastic Federation. As most of you know, we service almost every public and private high school in the state of California, and that numbers over 1,500 schools and over 800,000 athletes at any given time participate in high school sports in the state of California. So we're appreciative of Easton's efforts. As a result of the unfortunate accident suffered by Gunnar last year, the CIF moved in a lot quicker than we normally move. Besides implementing the new bat standards for this year, our leadership made two other decisions. One of them was to recommend to our member schools that field baseball and softball teams the use of some type of protective equipment for defensive players, those particularly in the infield. It was at the recommendation stage because we really knew that the technology was probably being developed, but the equipment wasn't there yet. Wasn't out in the market for people to go out and buy, and the protective equipment that was out there was rather cumbersome. They were basically baseball helmets that were jerry-rigged in some fashion with a face mask or something on it to protect the pitcher. In softball in particular, the third base person is particularly vulnerable. So we were at the recommendation stage, so we recommended that this year. Also, what our leadership made the decision to do, and all this happened last August, was to recommend to the National Federation of State High School Associations, the governing body that makes most of our rules that we use in the state of California and throughout the nation, to recommend that they start working with NOXI, the group that develops safety standards, start working with NOXI in softball and baseball with their rules committee to develop standards. Coming right along with that, Easton's been working with NOXI as well as to develop these standards, and Easton is out in the forefront in developing this type of protective equipment. And so we're particularly pleased, Paul, that Easton has taken that initial step, and I anticipate that within a year or two, the equipment will be readily available. Kids may still not want to wear it, but if you're a parent out there, you're going to make your kid wear this type of protective helmet. So I'm really pleased to be here. I'm really pleased to be as supportive as I can with Easton in terms of developing this technology. And I would suspect within a 5-year period, we're going to see safety equipment mandated. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marie. Next, I'd like to call up Bjorn Sandberg, father of Gunnar, and why we're here today. The impressive nature with which you've handled this tragic accident and also become a supporter of us is truly motivating, as I said earlier, for everybody. So we'd like to hear from you. Thank you. Yep.
Hi. I want to say thank you to Paul and the group here at Easton for having us. Gunnar and I were down here a couple weeks ago, and we got a little sneak peek. I don't know if many people outside of this office had seen it before, and like Steve said, or like Paul said, sorry, I had drawn this in my mind ever since Gunnar's accident. We'd sit around and talk about what's the right way to do this, and got a lot of phone calls and emails from people in little leagues and in high school levels, and just saying, what do you know? When are helmets coming out? And I just say, I just hope people are working on it, and we know they are. Easton is, and there's a couple other groups that are also working on things. They probably haven't come as far yet, but it's just wonderful to see that people are kind of jumping on board and taking the baton and running with it. And we are here to do whatever we can to support it. We find it incredibly important. Gunnar and I met Marie up in Sacramento. We were there at a press conference that was instigated by our assemblyman, Jared Huffman, and I think that helped push along the wood bat and the BB core standard on the non-wood bats and moving them up here in California by a year, which we're very grateful to. Gunners League, the Marin County Athletic League, has chosen to play with wood bats again this year, which we are also very supportive of. But I want to say thank you to Marie for pushing so hard and making it happen so quickly. Very, very appreciate it. You know, the time has come for something like this. I've watched baseball. Gunner's been playing, you know, fairly high-level baseball since he was 10 or 11 years old. And there were so many times where we sat in the stands and there'd be a close call. And like everyone else, you know, we would say, you know, thank God that didn't hit somebody. But at the same time, I buried my head in the sand like everyone else. Just, you know, we kind of brushed it off and moved on, but no more. You know, after what we've been through this year, you know, it doesn't need to happen anymore. You know, the technology's there, and you know, for Easton and Little League and the CIF to support us is fantastic, and we're just so appreciative. And I know there's going to be people saying, oh, but these accidents are so rare, and they are, luckily. They're very rare, but when they happen, they're so traumatic. And the parallel that I can see is seatbelts in cars. You know, those serious car accidents are very rare also, luckily. But when they happen, they're traumatic, and we all buckle up. That's just part of the deal. And we wouldn't think of getting in our cars without them. So again, let's, with everyone's help, let's keep pushing this along and make sure it happens, and the sooner the better. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Bjorn. We take the same view. We do believe that baseball is a safe game, but one accident is too many. And that's what we're here for, and that's why we established the Dome. For those of you that are here, you're going to go on a tour, and you're really going to get a chance to see how the ideas come together across sports, why this is a center of innovation. But before we do that, we'd like to take some questions from the crew. Oh, sure, absolutely.
All right, so this last year has been a pretty tough one. When I was pitching in a scrimmage, I was hit by a line drive that was going about 130 miles an hour. And obviously, it was pretty traumatic. So I and all of us standing back here don't want this to happen to anyone else. So I'm really thankful to everyone who's kind of pushed this to come up sooner. And I think we just need to make the game of baseball much more safer. And as my dad said, a few weeks ago we came here and we were really pleased with what we had seen with the product that they had made. And so I can't thank these guys enough for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunnar. It was definitely good to hear from you as opposed to just all of us. So, as I said earlier, we'd open it now for some questions before we do the tour. Okay. Yeah.
Gunnar, when are you going to first pitch with this helmet, or have you already?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Oh, sure. Sure. Gunnar, when are you going to first pitch with this helmet, or have you already?
Well, I've not used this helmet, and this year I'm not pitching at all. So, but I will wear it in the field when I do play. So I think as soon as possible.
And would you like to see this be mandated for your team?
I would like to see eventually for this to be mandated for all teams.
Can you talk a bit about how it felt getting back on the field?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How it felt to get back on the field?
Oh, to get back on the field, that was great. I felt really happy being out there again, you know, with my friends, basically like my family out there, and so it was a joy to be out there.
Gunnar, it's great that you're here and able to talk about this. Can you explain, because looking at that helmet, it looks like it's only a partial covering of the head.
Right.
Can you tell us exactly where the ball struck you on your head, and is that area covered by that helmet?
Yeah. So I was hit above my right ear, a little bit back behind my temple, above that also. So if I were wearing a product like this, it would have hit right about here, and hopefully the injury that I suffered would have been much like less worse, better. I don't know. Yeah. So I was hit like around here. So obviously this hard shell would have protected that.
And how does that differ from the other helmet that you wore when you got back from the
I've been wearing, I wouldn't call it a helmet. It was a rugby or a soccer. It was more of a protective shell, but it didn't have any hard protection on the outside, which is the difference between those two. So really, I don't know if that would have done much if an injury like mine were the case. So I'm really happy about this.
Is it pretty comfortable? I mean, would you
Yeah.
wear that for the whole game?
Oh yeah, I could wear this going to sleep.
Gunnar and maybe Bjorn as well, how much have you talked to Matt Heiserman, the pitcher at University of San Francisco, who I know also has been, very outspoken about the need for pitchers' protective gear, and did you guys all sort of discuss this over the last year?
I just met him when we went to Sacramento over the summer, and I've exchanged a few conversations with him. But as far as I know, I don't think he knows too much about this. But I'll talk to him for sure.
Yeah, I hear from him via email, etc. And I know he was working with a different company on developing something. I don't know where they are in the process. I haven't seen anything, but he's a good guy, and I'm sure he would love this as well.
I know this is a prototype. How close are you to production, and what's the cost of something like this?
Yeah. This is a prototype. There's still NOXI, as was mentioned before, is going to develop standards for 2012. But we felt that this is as I said earlier, there's a need in the marketplace. So we plan on working with our partners, including Little League, to potentially get this on the field this fall in advance of those standards, because we feel the need is that great.
Most people are familiar with the batting helmet. Could you just, for the people who can't see this, how is this different from people can visualize a batting helmet?
Yeah.
Can you just describe how this is different from a batting helmet?
Well, I think first and foremost is that, there's an opening here. As I said earlier, what we wanted to do is design something that would actually meet the need and the use of a pitcher. So traditional batting helmets obviously are covered all the way here and on the sides. As Gunnar said, we went through, I think, maybe over 5,000 different views of a pitcher, both during their motion and after the motion, and where they're at after they pitch. And all our research showed that very rarely are they going to have their head down here or their head turned. So we really took a different approach to it, as opposed to starting with a batting helmet and looking at the functionality and the use. And that's what I say the major difference here is. This is a ground up based on the need, not necessarily based on the product that was already in the marketplace.
But you didn't see any need to have any protection in the front at all? There's no need for protection there, or is that possibly going to be? Yeah,
that's something that could be a next iteration. I mean, if you look at softball, sometimes you're wearing a cage here. Again, this is a prototype that was, I wouldn't say rushed, but this is something that we really felt we wanted to work on quickly. Different iterations may have that. There's clearly cases where you could get hit in the front of the face there, but this is right now what we thought we wanted to get out in the marketplace to address 90% of where the accidents do happen. I don't know exactly. I would say, Mike, I have my engineer here.
150 grams?
About 150 grams. And this prototype doesn't represent the final material, which actually would even be lighter than what I have here in my hand right now.
Question for Gunnar. Gunnar, we've heard that maybe it could be up to 5 years before these helmets might be mandatory. How hopeful are you that there won't be a pushback, that everyone will embrace them much sooner than that, so everyone's protected when they're playing?
I'm really going to try to help push around our local area for everyone to wear this. I'll wear it at practice, hopefully maybe in the games. And so hopefully people will kind of catch on and start wearing it.
What would you say to pitchers who might be reluctant to wear it?
I don't know, just look at all the accidents that have happened, and I mean, wouldn't you rather wear this than be in the hospital for 2 months? Yeah.
Question for Stephen. Do you envision this being mandatory equipment for Little League players? And if so, what's the process for making it mandatory?
Let me answer your second question first. I don't know. I can't tell you today. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't tell you today that it will in fact be mandatory at some point. But we will give it every chance to be utilized. We make products like this available immediately. That's why we've talked about once the production is underway and there's product available to get it out and let Little League programs start using it in the fall. And we'll see how it goes. So, it very well could become a mandatory piece of equipment, but it's probably a little bit too early for me to say today to give you any kind of time frame as to when that might happen. We'll do everything we can to encourage its use right out of the box. The gentleman asked a question earlier about the facial protection, and maybe the folks at Easton maybe they're a little hesitant to address it. I'm not. The question is, when this product was first talked about, what we were talking about were, saving kids' lives. That's what we're talking about. Gunnar is one of the very remarkable, fortunate young people to be able to be standing here today after what he went through. And so the initial thrust of this was to develop a product that would let more, these are very rare. Bjorn's absolutely right. These injuries are very rare, but when they do happen, they are extremely traumatic, catastrophic. And that's what I believe this product is initially designed to protect against. At the end of the day, we have facial protection that can be added to batting helmets that are optional pieces of equipment that if parents or leagues want to adopt to protect facial areas. And I'm sure the day will come when this product will be developed to have facial protection as well. But for right now, I think Easton ought to be applauded for taking the step to, the most important thing we can do is prevent a catastrophic injury or even worse, a fatality on the playing field. And that's what we're trying to do right now.
Can I just stop you for just one before you ask the next one? I believe that Lisa Sandberg.
I'm so sorry. It's so hard for me not to say anything.
Yeah.
But I have to, as a mother's perspective here, I have to tell you one thing. The skull fracture that Gunnar sustained was exactly in the shape of a baseball. That's how much of an impact it had. So for where this is and where the protection is right on for Gunnar's injury. If that ball had hit just a fraction, I don't even know mathematically, I don't know that, it would have hit the temple, he would have been dead. So for this is spot on for where the ball hit Gunnar, whereas because of how he was pitching and how that ball came off so quickly, it's spot on. It's a start. It's a great start.
I apologize for cutting you off, but I think you wanted to hear from the mom.
I wouldn't be here if I wasn't applauding Easton for what they're doing. I'm just asking a few questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Cost, okay? If this thing could be mandated downstream, where he's talking about, tens of thousands of potential customers for you, but not all of them are, there's some economic challenges there. What are you looking at to roll this thing out at, maybe?
Yeah, as I said before, this is a prototype. We're still developing the cost right here with our factory base. But I will say this, if I was up here today and with our partners here talking about what the commercial opportunity is, that would be the wrong answer. This is not going to be a huge market for us. To tell you the truth, this is a pitcher's helmet, but we feel it's absolutely what we should be doing as a company in terms of bringing it out. What the cost will be down the road and what the rollout is along with our partners, we're still working it out. This was, as Lisa said, this was about getting the right product into the market right now.
Has Major League Baseball expressed any interest in this?
We haven't had any discussions with them to date, but we have a partnership with Major League Baseball that is ongoing. And this is clearly one of the things that we'll talk about as we look through different equipments and what different categories we're in and all that. But we haven't had any conversations with them to date. But having been to a Major League game where I sat right behind the plate and saw 3 different pitchers hit, with wood bats, I think that it's something that they may be interested in down the road. As I said earlier, we see this as applicable to all levels of play down the road.
So follow-up for Stephen, if I can. Help the audience understand what's standing in the way of implementing this right now.
Well, first of all, we have to have the product. We will implement the use of the product right away. What I think you're asking is why not mandate it right away? And we'll do that after it's had some actual field testing and field use to determine if it's in fact doing exactly on the field what we want it to do. So it would be, I think, rather foolish of us to mandate a product before we've actually seen its use on the playing field. But we'll evaluate it once we've had a chance to do that. And if at the end of the day we believe that mandating the product is the right way to go, then Little League will take that step. So it's a process that has to take place. We just can't do it without having had it on the field to begin with. I'll give you an example. We tested for 2 years disengageable bases, and now they are mandatory in the Little League program. So when the people came out with disengageable bases initially and came to us and said, we think this can help reduce injuries, we looked at our injury data, and we don't make decisions based on anecdotal evidence. We want empirical data to support the decisions that we make. And so we studied the injury data as a result of sliding and having bases that were anchored into the ground. And it was very clear to us that if you could put a base on the playing field that would break away on impact, it would reduce injuries. And it has done that, and we've mandated the use of those.
Paul, hi, Janie with AP. Do you see, so if I understand this correctly, we could see some of these helmets on fields around California as soon as this fall. Is that the right way to?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And where do you plan to kind of start?
I think that we'll work with Steve.
Not just California.
Yeah, not just California. You know, wherever there's a need before, you know, the standard gets in. So we feel confident enough with the testing that we've done here that it's safe to put a prototype on the field. It'll be based on working with our partners, people like Steve, people like Marie, and people across the country.
It's a question for the Sandberg family. How much input did you have to what this product ended up being like? Have you had conversations with Easton about? No.
No, we really none, other than, sorry, we were first in contact probably a month or two ago, and they just asked us to set up a time to come down and see what they were working on. And like I said earlier, when they unveiled this for us, it was like Gunnar and I both said, wow, this is really exactly what we've been thinking about, something like this. So yeah, no, we have not been working with them at all.
Can you talk about what it was like to see him back on the field?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, that's where he belongs. You know, he's been playing baseball for a long time, and he loves it. And you know, and then a product like this will give us much more confidence when he's out there. He already has the confidence. I think his mom needs to gain a little bit more, but it's great to have him back out there.
Does Gunnar have something like this now that you're using?
No. The only thing he has is the soccer headband, and because the doctors would not allow him to go back on the field without having some kind of head protection. There is nothing else on the market that would do what this does. Yeah.
Excuse me. That's just what I was going to ask. If a product like this or prototype is being considered for the sport of soccer, there's a lot of concussions in soccer, and for those that are cleared of a concussion, there's a risk of, you know, a lighter blow causing a concussion. I think the product they have now is a 180 or whatever that product is called. Yeah. But has there been, has the soccer community been marketed, or is there thought of this extending to soccer, maybe rugby and some of the other sports where people are at risk for concussion?
Yeah, you know, like I said, our first need was baseball. I'm sure that if this product gets out there and performs like the way we think it is, other sports will be looking to adopt it also. But to date, we haven't had any conversations with any of the federations like we have with our partners here.
Do you have any idea how many injuries we could prevent a year?
You know, like I said, incidents are rare. We don't have all the different statistics, but like I said earlier, one injury is too many. So that's what this dome is about, and that's what all our engineering research is about, is preventing any injury. At this point, I'd like to wrap it up. You know, we have a tour that we need to go through where you truly can see the capability of this place. So I invite you all to attend. But I'm very, very happy that most of the questions were for the Sandberg family. They're the stars here, and we're very, very happy to have them. So thank you again. There'll be a tour, and for those of you on the webcast, thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you soon. Yep.